Good afternoon to another exciting edition of UFOVIDMAG.com. I'm your host, Jeffrey Karvanek, MUFON field investigator for the Mutual UFO Network. I'm going to discuss flying triangle sightings. There have been a lot recently. On 5/1/03, there was a silent black triangle sighted over western Seattle. Shortly thereafter that, in 5/6/03, Kakak, Siberia, Montenegro, a triangle. Boca Raton, Florida, 5/7/03. Two objects in the sky were pierced evenly apart, but both were triangular in shape. Each triangle craft looked like it was attached to three balls. 5/7/03, Newmarket, Canada. Ontario, triangle, 1 or 2 minutes. Triangle in flight. 5/9/03, flying triangle. Witnessed it for 10 seconds. Black, silent, low-flying craft heading east over San Francisco. Ventura, California, 5/15. 5-second sighting of a black, low-flying, noiseless, big triangular-shaped craft during a lunar eclipse. 5/20/03, New York City. Triangle sighting for 20 seconds. Triangular bright white object over New York moving west to east at 4:42 a.m. Triangle was silent with 3 balls of light. Ephrata, Washington, triangle, 4 minutes. Result in Iowa's MUFON telephone and email interview with one of the 3 witnesses involved. Object made no noise, was very jittery, turned, it did not bank, also had red light on top, along with 5 white lights. And more recently, there have been more sightings. On 5/23/03, Webster City, Louisiana, there was a triangle for 3 minutes. The following investigation details are still to be followed. 5/23/03, Webster City, Iowa, triangle, 3 minutes. Dark triangular shaped object moving slowly over the southwesterly direction with orange balls at each corner. 5/26/03, San Antonio. Disappointment of it all is it didn't have any of my camcorder equipment on me at the time. 5/27, Everett, Washington, I-5, triangle over Everett. 5/28, Perth, Western Australia, triangle, 20 seconds, triangular shape. Boise, Idaho, a triangle was witnessed for 10 seconds, rapidly moving, shimmering shadow with orange leading edges, triangular shape. Cambridge, Canada, Ontario, triangle, about 3 minutes, 2 triangles with lights. Clearfield on 6/5/03, Utah, triangle was witnessed for 7 seconds, 3 triangular white lights, luminous, shapely flying formations, hovered and changed directions, disappeared. 6/7/03, Universal City, Canada, triangle, 30 seconds. 2 triangles were shaped objects with lights on each end. Kansas City on 6/8/03, Missouri, bright triangular shaped object hovering over Highway 435 in Missouri. 6/9/03 in Hickson, Tennessee, triangle was witnessed for 2 to 3 minutes. Wish I didn't hesitate on getting my camera. 6/12/03, Oak Brook, Illinois, triangle was witnessed for 15 minutes. 3 lights on each corner, stopped in the middle of the afternoon over Chicago area suburb near O'Hare International Airport. On 6/12/03, a triangular shaped object, chevron, black object flying low and slow with no sound, appeared to have been pursued by 3 Navy planes. Manchester on 6/15/03, Tennessee, triangle, slow, eerie green craft. Eastern Wenatchee on 6/15/03, triangle was witnessed for 5 seconds. 2 triangular shaped green and pink craft seen flying in a mist from east to west. 6/18/03, Shell Beach, California, witnessed a orange glowing triangle with 3 red lights over the ocean. 6/20/03, Moline, Illinois. The triangle was witnessed for 20 seconds. Black metallic upside down triangle object appeared to hovering 15 feet above and 10 feet away from the side of I-74 bridge. Livermore, California, on 6/26/03, I observed something that appeared to be glowing orange with white balls over a naval air station. Livermore, I was observing this for about 5 minutes. Kettleman City on 6/29/03, slow-moving triangle northwest across southbound I-5, aircraft landing 2,000 feet west of parallel to I-5. St. Ignace, Minnesota, on 7/3/03, a V-shaped object over St. Ignace. Fort Smith, 7/3/03, triangular, 3 to 5 minutes, triangle-shaped and fireballs in Arkansas. Merced, California, 7/4/03, 3 lights form a perfect acute triangle from a huge craft slowly overhead. Graham, Washington, 7/5/03, Graham-Eatonville border, 2-minute witness a triangle of stars moving southwest. Sedona, 7/5/03, Arizona, triangle, black triangle was seen flying over Sedona, Arizona on the evening of July 5th, 2003 by 6 eyewitnesses. 7/6/03, Tulsa, Oklahoma, triangle. It changed colors. It went from a blue to a red, green to yellow, and then it was an airplane, but it was silent, but not like a hawk, like a night hawk. Greece, 7/8/03, a triangular shape of star formation in Greece, Califio Probos. Westmoreland, 7/9/03, Tennessee, huge triangle was witnessed for 10 to 12 minutes with white lights over Tennessee-Kentucky border. 7/9/03, Endicott, New York, triangle, 2 minutes, a craft re-enters the atmosphere. On 7/9/03, Liberty Lake, Washington, triangular-shaped craft was witnessed for 3 minutes, triangle-shaped lights with orange rim moving in unison across the night sky. Okay, we go to Pearlsbom, California, on 7/9/03. What we saw was a triangle-shaped object with white lights at each point. It didn't make a sound as it passed overhead. Boulder, Colorado, 7/11/03. 2-minute sighting of a triangular object in a constellation of stars. The object floated silently across the sky at a very high altitude. 7/14/03, Ording, Washington, triangle-shaped object witnessed for 4 hours. Strange lights in Ording, Washington. 7/15/03, Spencer, Indianapolis, triangle sighting for 5 seconds, approximately 9:40 a.m. As I was sitting in my yard gazing, something that made me think of a comet passed directly overhead. DuPont, Washington, 7/18/03, 3 hanging orange lights spaced at intervals emitting a saucer-shaped glow. Slowly changed into a triangle-shaped pattern. 7/18/03, Albuquerque, New Mexico, triangle sighting for 20 seconds, triangle shape, phosphorescent lighted stingray-shaped craft. Stryker, Ohio, 7/19/03, 5-second witness for, I noticed a triangle dimly lit object traveling from east to west covering about a 90-degree and a 4 to 5 second no sound. Shreveport, 7/21/03, Louisiana, triangle sighting lasted 1 minute. Large triangular thing flew right over our heads. I don't know what it was. 7/21/03, Woodinville, Washington, craft with red and white strobing lights flew overhead, triangular shaped. Lethbridge, Canada, 72203. Brian Vike reports 2 triangular shaped crafts flying objects, approximately 5-second interval. Strathmore, Canada, on 72303. Alberta, a triangle night. Orange hazy, red triangle. And now to the latest Filer Files, brought to us by George Filer at filerfiles.com. This is from Filer Files number 39, and it opens up with UFO flies over air show. More spectacular sightings coming. There is a report in Maine, triangular cluster of lights. On August 31st, 2003 at 4:30 a.m. Also, another sighting of a flying triangle was reported over Ellicott City on September 9th, 2003. Hovering triangular formation to the right of Mars. The lights turned an orangish color at 8:45 p.m. The lights then disappeared after 2 minutes. Ohio, flying triangle investigation, Seaman Adams County. Kenny Young investigation. September 13th, 2003. Mandy, a 21-year-old mom, and her sister and one of her friends saw a huge object over Route 32. They observed a triangular-shaped formation of lights that flashed in sequence and then changed colors from pinkish red, blue, white to yellow. Coyotes were heard howling ridiculously loudly during the sighting. And also previous evening, the Adams County Sheriff Department was contacted by telephone, telephone number 937-544-2314, to find out if anyone had reported a UFO sighting. Sometime around midnight this morning, the dispatcher taking the call was interested in the report, saying she lived near Belfast, but that the officer had received no calls on it. She took my number and said if she would be posted in the office for future reference. In any event, any UFO calls do come in. Next, the Highland County Sheriff's Office was contacted at 937-393-1421 to find out if anyone had reported a UFO near Belfast, Ohio, after midnight. The dispatcher said he would check the daily log. Could not find no mention of a UFO complaint. So they're following up on this one. Also, we have a flying triangle sighting, or a object that crashed in Renton on September 8th. Looking east, a large moon-sized green ball shot down over a 75-degree angle to what seemed like 400 miles per hour. No sound or explosion occurred, it just vanished. A light trail of vapor, despite all immediately who were contacted. Okay, we're following up on a possible abduction, a UFO abduction. And the aliens took somebody while they were out stargazing. On July 31st, 2000, 2 ladies went stargazing in an isolated area and saw 3 white stars in a triangle shape that started moving together. The lights changed to neon green and the object flew to a position just ahead of their car. Pat shined her flashlight down the road and 5 sets of eyes were staring from 40 feet away. They started coming towards the woman. Pat yelled, "Get in the car," but everything slowed down. The ignition failed, the car would not start, the battery was dead, the radio started being all staticky. Finally the car started and they sped off towards home. She realized 25 minutes later of time was missing. And then they were just about home. They turned to the sky. The lady's car stopped. So did the object. The ball of green light started heading towards them. Pat said, "They will never find us here." Linda pointed, "We don't have just one green ball of light. There are now 3 glowing green objects, each half the size of a full moon. And the way the green lights were in the sky, it looked as if they formed a triangle and were all moving together." After a short period of time, each of the green lights moved away. Once safe at home, both ladies were shaken, and when awoke the next morning, Pat discovered a large bruise on her left breast and another on the bottom of her foot. These were extremely painful, Linda said. I feel rough this morning." Then blood came pouring from her nose, and she complained of great pain in her lower back area. Pat looked at Linda's back and saw a large circle burned into her skin in the lower tailbone area. Bruises were found on Linda's body that looked like finger marks, 3 of them on each thigh. Linda, who was visiting from Abbotsford, consulted her family doctor. Since she was still experiencing terrible back pain, her doctor examined her back and said, "If I didn't know any better, I would say you have a radiation burn." And this came from Brian Vike at HBCC UFO. That's one of his investigations. Then we have 2 very interesting photos. One from a recent air show, New England Air Show, the Goodwill Festival, on September 5th of 2003. The Revival Air Show, 2 World War II aircraft were flying in formation above the crowd when a disc entered the formation in clear sky. A British Spitfire P-47 were flying in formation when a disc-shaped UFO joined them at 1:35 p.m. Simon, a 29-year-old pilot from West Sussex, was filming the event with a JVC Hi-8PAL camcorder, and his images are excellent. The maneuvering UFO could have caused dangerous collision footage in crystal clear with zoom to both aircraft and the UFO. The 2 planes flying in formation, making a turn from left to right, are filmed with an unknown brownish object, round in shape, that appeared the same scene passing from right to left close to one of the unknown airplanes at moderate speed. Images are clear. The object was caught in several frames by Simon's camera crew. Simon then made a great zoom of the object and its shape, and was clearly revealed a disc-shaped UFO floating, making balancing movements, and appears to be metallic structure, possibly 99.9 point silver. Now here's a picture of the object. We can get that, a zoom in on that object. Okay. That's a pretty impressive object. Alright, now that was Mr. Simon's photo. Thank you, Mr. Simon. Now we go on to fodder file number 40. And it talks in here about several New York fighters try to shoot down a UFO. In Fort Plain, New York, a triangular-shaped object containing 3 bright lights was viewed through an 8mm telescope and traveling west across the southern skies on September 12, 2003 at 8:40 p.m. A local stargazing session, we noticed a possible satellite not blinking lights, traveling west across the southern sky 25 degrees above the horizon. I managed to catch the object in an 8mm Dobson, passed in front, startled him, and flew off over a minute. I had 3 bright lights arranged in a triangle shape. Returning home, I checked NASA J-Track software for satellite observations at 2040, and the only objects remotely visible were 2 small orbs, commonly satellites for FM7 and FM8. I had a good view with my telescope and have never seen an object like this traveling before. Okay, we have another sighting in New York, Williamstown, on September 19th, 2003. A 16-year-old was up in his bedroom watching TV when he heard a very odd noise. So he looked out his window and saw a flying triangle with a light at each point. The lights were whitish, yellowish color, he stated. I clearly noticed had no wings and there was no weird blue haze around this craft. It seemed to have equal sides to each side of this triangle, and if anything, it looked metallic. It flew over my house, so I went into the hallway to see out the other side of the house, and I saw 2 triangle craft with the lights on in front of one another. These craft were flying over Black Horse, Pike, and Cross Keys Airport. There are always planes. There were only ones. The flying triangles were very big. They continued flying away out of my view. Okay, another flying triangle sighting on September 17th, 2003, Orlando, Florida. On September 17, 2003, 10:30 p.m. A couple were taking their dog for a walk, looking at Mars at about 10:35 p.m. when they saw a flashing white light moving east. My wife discovered a second flashing red light that was stationary directly below Mars. The first object was heading directly towards the stationary object that had red light underneath. When the first object lined up directly over the stationary object, the two then began to move north. It wasn't a satellite because satellites do not make 90-degree turns. The objects were very high up in the sky. We're heading directly towards them. At one point, we became very uneasy. The first two objects now lined up with the new one. The new objects and all four began to head north. The object was substantially larger than any other three, and they all suddenly went black, and the only large object was visible. I doubt the military has anything that can hover up in the atmosphere, wait for other objects to catch up, then proceed. If there was ever doubt that there is something else out there, we have now seen it with our own eyes. His wife is a devoted Christian. I didn't want to see this 10 minutes UFO center. Okay, there's also several sightings. Here's one in Kentucky, September 17th, 2003. Disc seemed to descend over a yard. Seemed almost diamond-like, brilliant center around a softer glow at the same color. This landed. I got frightened, and I felt as if I had come right down to me, as if I had gotten out of the way. I live in a country near Daniel Boone State Park, and that compliments Peter Davenport, Seattle, Washington's New Fork. We also have an interesting sighting that came to my attention over Mount Rainier. A photo was sent into Filer Files. I'll try to get a copy of this. We closed the photo. It took while in Mount Rainier in August. I don't know if it's a UFO, so I leave it to the experts. The photos were taken from inside a vehicle through the front window, but the objects appeared to be solid, not reflections from outside. At the time I took the photo, I did not see the objects, but there was nothing except mountains and trees. Thanks to Vanessa Romeo. There's also been sightings recently in Mexico. Strange balloon-shaped objects over, what's the name of the little town in Mexico? Well, just New Mexico. While driving along I-20, we saw this object way off in the sky, just stayed in one spot. We were in no particular hurry, so we decided to see if we couldn't get close enough to identify it. We took some side roads and got close enough to see it was a huge tethered balloon. While we were stopped by a field, a farmer said it was a balloon with a radar on it to track smugglers coming up from Mexico. Okay. Now we're going to follow up more evidence on the abduction in Kelowna, British Columbia, that Brian Viken is investigating. Below are 3 pictures I received from ladies who had missing time in Kelowna, British Columbia. Linda, who was a passenger in the car that night, had wounds on her body after possible abduction. In the first photo, the wounds had healed up somewhat, but it took turns for the worse. And the result, as shown in picture number 1, was told that a doctor is stumped due to not knowing why the wound would not heal. Also, the doctor reports that he still does not know what causes it. Let us hope that the wounds completely heal. Many thanks to the ladies for providing these pictures of this important event. Photos can be previewed along with full report at www.telus.net/public/Wilbur8/Kelowna-missing-time-HTML. There also seems to be another one. Tijuana. Silver-plated spheres over Tijuana, Mexico on September 7th. Silver-plated spheres were spotted at a distance of 1 kilometer on a sunny day by a farmer looking east. The family saw 3 objects approaching that appeared to be silver-plated, form a sphere These observed the spheres for about 5 minutes. They were flying only about 200 meters of height. The witnesses thought the objects were about 3 meters in diameter as they flew off towards the south at medium speed. Okay, I think that's on the triangle. Alright, that's all on flying triangles. Now we're going to discuss ELF and the possible effects of ELF contributing to mind control devices such as our good old U.S. Air Force and Project HARP up in Greeley, Alaska. Several other locations throughout the world. One such location is Pine Gap, Southern Australia, the Joint Research and Defense Facility or Space Facility. There are several. I've been doing my own little research lately, and I've come up with several conclusions as far as to the ELF hum located in Taos, New Mexico. Now this is what I have come up with. Just on doing a couple days worth of studying. Now, Taos, New Mexico. Now this is a map of New Mexico. Now this little corner half right up here is Taos. This is Taos. Now, there have been sightings at Carson, at the San Cristobal Ranch. There have been recordings of sound ELF transmissions coming from Bolander National Monument in New Mexico. And there have also been sounds coming from outside of Taos itself. Now if you triangulate this on a map, there is one possible place for this transmitter. Carson National Forest. I give you our government secret, top secret project for ELF experiments and manipulation of electromagnetic waves of the human brain. Now I figured this out. The first ELF experiments were created by the Navy. First conducted experiments on ELF on 33 Hz to 76 Hz in 1969, using 2 antennas each 14 miles long, located at Clam Lake, Wisconsin. The project continued until 1979, codename Sanjuine, a continued project using buried antenna ELF system, 28-mile long, also located at Clam Lake, Wisconsin, codename Seafarer. In 1981, a 56-mile long antenna on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan was installed. Each is powered with a 660 kilowatt transmitter, operational in 1987. Around the world, we have the United States operating frequency is from 40 Hz to 50 Hz. The principal operating frequency is thought to be at 76 Hz. The Soviet Union, their ELF transmitter project got started in 1970. It used an 8 Hz frequency, used 2 transmitters, one at Riga and one at Gomel. The British also have their own ELF transmitter in Glencallie Forest in Scotland, and the French have their own system sited at Roche, operational both in 1990s. The Taos, New Mexico hum ranges from 2 Hz to 17 Hz to 32 Hz, and higher at 1/3 octave band. It is 15 to 20 times dB at 7,000 feet above sea level. Now, in 1979, I know that the U.S. Navy performed a test in which they exposed the Pacific Northwest and regions of Oregon to ELF frequencies. They used the local police stations and hospitals for collection points to gather the data and study it. Now I don't know if the CIA was behind this project or the NSA, but you can bet your dollar somebody within the government knew. Now this is the shocking stuff that I think people are going to like. January 25th, 2003, an ELF transmission was detected at Chino Canyon. Y-axis is at measured frequency in Hertz, 12 to 24 to 36, and so on. X-axis is observation number 1, observation per second total of 1,000. Data collected January 25th of 2003 at approximately 1730 Ballender National Monument, New Mexico. The waves have again been detected at primary multiples of 4 Hz and ranging from approximately 2 to 27 Hz, with a vast majority between 4 and 52 Hz. This spectrum corresponds with the primary electromagnetic activity regions of the human brain. Now, data collected on 2/11 of 2003. 4 to 8 Hz frequencies were heard on February 11th, 2003. Also, February 16th, 2003, San Cristobal Ranch, 150 miles apart, frequencies were heard. February 25th, 2003, 10-second intervals, ELF pulse, 140 miles apart, 4 Hz frequency. I don't know what they're doing or why they're doing this, but I don't think it's for our benefit. I understand they have to communicate with submarines out like in the Indian Ocean, patrolling, keeping an eye on the Soviet Union. There's also things that they're doing that I question what they're really doing. Special attention to flight STS-29, where NASA filmed off of their own cameras, off of the space shuttle, a UFO shooting into outer orbit after being fired on by a space-based or land-based laser, compliments of White Sands, New Mexico, the proving grounds in the U.S. Army. Oh, the Army's really looking out for us, aren't they? They could be bettering their time at much better projects. Now, I'd like to go back and we're going to do a little bit of history on UFOs, find out what people do know about UFOs. 1965, December 9th, an acorn-shaped metallic object crashed into a ravine in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. The object came in over Pittsburgh, turned left, then turned left again. The U.S. Air Force 162nd Radar Squadron moved in, armed MPs circled it, loaded it up onto a U.S. Air Force flatbed, covered it with a tarp, and later that same morning took it to the back entrance at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The 162nd were out of Maryland. In 1965, unidentified flying object study entitled "The Assessment, the Situation." Sergeant Major Robert O. Deans read while he was the director of SHAPE at Supreme Headquarters Allied Command in Europe. 1954, 2 flying saucers were reported hovering above the USS Frederick Delano Roosevelt, which was the only aircraft carrier at that time that was able to carry nuclear weapons. Seemed to be raining. The aircraft hovering over the aircraft carrier seemed to be raining down fire onto one another from above. Now these 2 objects were battling over each other, hovering over the front of the deck. Another interesting sighting, 1952, U.S. Army intelligence report. U.S. Navy pilot radioed McCord Air Force Base, reported seeing a large triangular glowing shaped object exiting out of the Pacific Ocean, 31,000 feet, heading towards La Grande, Oregon. U.S. Army intelligence briefing stated that UFOs have been seen entering and exiting our oceans for thousands of years and continue to do so this day. Reports of strange lights underwater in the Bahamas Islands and near Puerto Rico's deepest underwater trench. On October 7, 1967, an object crashed into Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia. The object moved up to the Gulf of Maine and exited just shortly after the divers went down on this object after it crashed into the water. They observed little gray alien beings, or extraterrestrials, EBEs if you like to say, running around inside the craft trying to repair the damage. Now, the Navy and the Canadian military's Navy, the Canadian Naval Fleet, hovered over that craft for a week. They monitored its activities, they called in a submarine to keep in contact with it, and they watched it. It started up, it moved towards open water, and shot out of the Gulf of Maine. Never has been seen again since. There's also several sightings of flying triangles all around the world. Now, these are just a few. Okay, we have 1991. The Tishian Mazar Mountains. A UFO was chased by 2 Russian MiG fighters and collided into a cliffside, falling into two separate broken pieces. There was a strange electromagnetic field around the craft, seemed to affect compasses' time. Readings on the electromagnetic testing equipment, power generators, lights also failed. Batteries, Rufort, UFO researcher Nikolai Sabutin, and Emil Buchurin. Also another interesting facility is a U.S. naval air base known as Andros Island in the Bahamas. So a large black object was seen in a top-secret secure underground hangar with a blue coronal discharge out of the rear. The next day, both engineers were killed by a fallen crane. The other person who seen this object contacted malaria and died shortly after. The U.S. Navy's Underwater Test and Evaluation Center is 14,000 square hundred feet under the ocean. Also, several new sightings and crash landings have come to my attention. March 28, 1969, just shortly after the U.S. Air Force shut down Project Blue Book in December of 69. In March of 28th of 1969, Sverdlovsk Smidget, a UFO had crashed and was recovered by KGB. Wreckage was collected and sent to the Russian Scientific Hospital. An alien was being autopsied. 3 death certificates were discovered by Paul Stonehill with cerebral hemorrhages. Chances of this happening to 3 people at once are very rare. The wreckage was shipped to the Ural Mountains to be back engineered by scientists. In 1986, height 611, Dalnogorsk, Russia, an extraterrestrial probe crashed into a mountainside. The strange thing about this wreckage recovery is they tested all the people who responded to the recovery and that their white blood cell count were high in persons who were exposed to the wreckage. Was tested silver, zinc, promethium, which cannot be found on Earth, quartz crystals with gold filaments 16 microns thick. A hair is 38 microns thick. Now, there was a report recently of Vladivostok, home of the Russian naval fleet, near nuclear storage areas, missile launch silos, and other locations where UFOs have been seen hovering. There have been several saucer sightings and activity. The moon of Jupiter Io, the most volcanic activity ejecting sulfuric dioxide into its atmosphere. The coronal mass ejections cause solar flares that can interfere with TV and radio transmissions. Electromagnetic interference. Mars is showing activity of planet growth in the Valles Marineris area according to NASA JPL photographs. Sign of frozen water below the surface in polar regions. 1947, the alien spacecraft had a propulsion system problems and had to eject its engines, or risk destroying 4 states, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado. It was a scientific exploration of Earth and Io, who had crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. 3 alien bodies were recovered. They came from a twin binary star system 160,000 light years from Earth, known as Zeta 1 and Zeta 2 Rectilium. The live alien was taken to Sandia Army Base and to be put into an alien containment chamber. The wreckage was taken to Air Material Command at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, home of the Foreign Technologies Division. 1952, a flying saucer was shot down by a SAGE radar at White Sands. The pulsed waves were from 2 to 10 hertz. Interesting, we can shoot them down using radar waves. From what my research shows, the most UFO activity appears near electromagnetic fault lines. Using a study and comparing UFO sightings, activities maps, and volcanic maps in large deposits of barite and barium. In Kaliningrad Harbor, Russia, Navy reported a large manta ray-shaped craft crashed into the water after passing through pulsed waves radar. It seemed to lose altitude and navigational propulsion systems at 2 to 10 hertz. Let's see, 2 F-15 Strike Eagles encountered a UFO near Edinburgh, Scotland. They lost all navigational controls. They encountered electromagnetic interference with flight controls and navigational controls. The pilot ejected after being fired upon by a round metallic saucer. The fighter exploded February 26, 2002. That one. Okay, that one from Peru. 1998. Peru. Flying saucer recovered large oval-shaped object 300 meters around what looked like a large vents or grills, purplish and greenish fluid all over the crash site. U.S. Army UPI recovered the team embedded itself into a mountainside and over a cliffside. Interesting. Okay. More flying triangle sightings. 1950 Oak Ridge Nuclear Power Plant, February 2002, 7 p.m. A chevron-shaped object sighted over Ohio River near Marysville, and witnesses described the object as patrolling between power plants on both sides, the Ohio and Kentucky side of the river, turned southwest, flying around the plant. In 1996, Greifswald, West Germany, a group of flying saucers above a nuclear power plant was fired upon by the Russian anti-aircraft guns. A large triangular object hovered above a hydroelectric dam in Oregon near the borders of Washington State and Oregon in 2002. Several sightings of triangular-shaped objects with 3 lights in each corner have been reported in the UK over RAF bases and water treatment plants, hydroelectric generating plants, power substations from the 1990s to 2001, according to British Ministry of Defence records. The Canadian non-meteoric UFO sightings records from 1967 to 1978 found several flying triangle sightings. The NRC and DND, Department of National Defense, diamond-shaped UFOs have been reported to the RCMP over the past 3 years. Just recently okay. 1992. MacDill Air Force Base, a large silver metallic saucer was being moved by U.S. Air Force personnel on a flatbed truck out of a large storage hangar. They have yet to answer my FOIA request to date on that inquiry. I even told them I have it on video. Okay. Some other interesting factors just happened recently. In August, we had that major power loss on the East Coast, and the United States tried to blame it on the Canadians, saying it was the Mohawk Power Generating Plant. Wrong. On August 16th, an Intelsat 45 satellite observed a black flying triangle craft hovering above the East Coast. And this is 2 days prior to your blackout. What was it doing there? Don't ask me. Why did we fire at one in New York recently? If it's not ours, why are we shooting at it? And why are we shooting at things they don't even understand? That's their government for you. They just don't give a shit. But people like me got to put them in check every once in a while. Also, recently, a large boomerang-shaped craft was witnessed hovering over a large game preserve in southern Australia. On August 16th and 17th of 2003, mysterious power outage all over the East Coast, believed to have been started at the Mohawk Power Generating Plant, New Jersey Power Loop substation. UFOs were sighted hovering above high-voltage power lines in Maine, and 2 state troopers, and another one was sighted hovering August 14th, 2003, by the GeoSat 45 satellite. Now, up to date currently, on 9903 Clearwater, Florida, bright triangular shaped object with 3 lights in each corner heading east. 91003 Calgary, British Columbia, 3 bright lights in a triangle formation heading west. 91203 Meneville, Louisiana, a triangle shaped object was sighted. 91203 Regina, British Columbia, 30 or so lights in a triangle formation heading west. 9/12/03, Troy, New York, flying triangle was sighted. 9/13/03, Yelm, Washington, white and red lights over the treetops could be seen in a triangle formation. On 9/14/03, Mesa, Arizona, moving over the East Valley, seen a flying triangle. On 9/16, Lakeside, Oregon, flying triangle was sighted north to south. Currently, from January, flying triangle sightings were 14. February, they were 11. March, they were 14. April, there were 11. May, there were 9. June, there were 5. July, there were 5. August, there were 7. In September, there was 8, bringing the total to 73 flying triangles. In the chevrons, we have 2 sightings in January, 4 sightings in February, 6 sightings in March, 5 sightings in April, 1 sighting in May, 2 sightings in June, 1 sighting in July, bringing the total of those to 22 sightings. Flying saucers are on an increase, though. From what my research shows, this is the past history of flying triangle sightings. 2000, we had 31 flying triangles, we had 2 chevrons, and 19 saucers. In 2001, we had 177 triangle sightings, 14 chevrons, and 46 saucers. In 2002, we had 36 triangle sightings, 54 chevron sightings, and 43 saucer sightings. And now up to date, we have triangle sightings at 73, chevron sightings at 22, and the saucer sightings at 89. And in Washington State alone, we have had 25 flying saucer sightings and triangle sightings mixed. And we seem to be on an increase. Over the past 4 years, there has been a definite change in the appearance and the frequency that these things are coming and appearing to people all over this planet. It ain't just one person here or one person there. Everybody's seeing these things. I ran into a lady here not too long ago that told me she'd seen something when she was a young girl. She described it as being a small, about the size of a Volkswagen Rabbit, a round metallic ball. And this was out in the woods back in 1964. We also have several sightings, all the way current date, that go back, even in the Bible you can find flying saucer sightings. In Ezekiel, there's several verifications to that. Also, I want to follow up on a Mr. Bob Lazar, nuclear physicist and propulsion specialist. We have right here Mr. Bob Lazar's tax statement. If he didn't work for the Office of Naval Research, we've got his tax statement. How come it says ONR? And what are the words MAJ? Could that be majestic? I don't know. This is, I find interesting, is on his tax statements. We also have several gentlemen I'd like to bring to the attention of the public. Colonel Stephen Wilson, who is retired and recently died, was given several different variations of a form of cancer. He didn't have none of this while he was in the service. This guy had a Silver Star, several other medals of valor, a Presidential Honor Medal for serving the United States government and his president. My hat was off to him for exposing the U.S. Air Force's Saucer Secret Project, which is projects Red Light, Pounce, Galileo, Snowbird, several others, Twinkle. We have these people to thank. Dr. Edward Teller referred Bob Lazar to EG&G at S4 to work for Area 51. They hired him. They put him into place. Mike Thigpen was Bob Lazar's supervisor. Give a big hi-ho to Mike Thigpen of the National Security Agency. Also, we have Dr. Donald Menzel, Dr. Michael Wolf, computer scientist, Colonel Stephen Bennett, who is in charge of Area 51 Saucer Operations Project, currently operational. There are several flying saucer theories I want to discuss. One would be electromagnetic propulsion. The second being the plasma-based Mercury. Now this goes back to our good old buddies at DC for project, what was it? Senior Citizen, that was on the black budgets tax deduction list. And it even listed senior citizens. So what do? I sent them a FOIA requesting information on Project Senior Citizen. They came out in the black budget that they mentioned. What is it? They wouldn't tell me what it is. So I guessed what it is. I believe it's the TR3A and the TR3B Black Mana project. It's a mercury-based plasma, 6,000 revolutions per minute, pressurized cabin at 250,000 atmospheres, supercooled at 150 Kelvin. Speeds of Mach 6 plus. Edgar Fouché worked on the electronics of the UFO spacecraft technology that was recovered many years ago from Roswell and previous other crashes since on the TR3A Black Mana. There's several other interesting propulsion theories. There's the pulse wave detonation engine, which produced donuts on a rope effect. There's a nuclear cold propulsion reactor fusion. There's also cold fusion reactor and point zero energy. The real interesting one is electromagnetic static containment engine, designed by Colin, I think it's Andrews. This guy designed this engine that was electromagnetically static contained. Well, basically, he launched it back in '64, and it landed in a secret location in the Nevada desert. I give you Area 51, where he was immediately taken into an elevator, taken down many floors underground to another facility. They opened up this big door into a big docking bay, and he witnessed several flying saucers on level 2 and 9 more on level 1. He was not allowed to the other 2 levels. They only took him to levels 1 and 2, but he's seen 9 saucers on each one. Bob Lazar also mentions the same thing. Many of his sightings are working on the extraterrestrial spacecraft known as the Super Sport saucer. Seems like there's a lot of cover-up going on behind the scenes. They're not doing a very good job of it. They didn't do a very good job of it back when they killed Kennedy, and they haven't done a good job since. All their coups get caught up sooner or later, and they all end up in jail where they belong. Now, there are several more saucer sightings I want to discuss up to date that came to my attention. I talked to 2 people that had possible abductions. One was a 68-year-old male. He also had the markings on his leg to prove it. Small scoop mark, circular, on his left inside calf. I have pictures of that marking. Also working on another case where a friend of mine, 32-year-old male, told me about his first sighting near Mount St. Helens. Black flying triangle. He has witnessed saucers with bright beams of blue light. He believes he has been abducted. He woke up with bruises on his arms and puncture marks on his left hand, side of his neck. He lives alone in Graham, Washington, on 110 acres. He was awoken one night to see a pencil beam of light coming through his roof. He also witnessed black helicopters. His sister, 25-year-old Angel Carlson, first witnessed UFO sighting was when she was abducted, about 9 years old. She remembers seeing a UFO and a light bluish-green beam of light. They lived in Toledo, Washington at the time. Also reported seeing jet fighters chasing a UFO with black helicopters taking pictures in pursuit. That's it. That's all, folks. Alright, I covered all 3. Time, place, and location.